Hey guys, welcome back to RIPP Superchargers, and thanks for stopping by. It truly is cool to have you guys come back over and over, and we do love all the comments and the engagement with the clients, so please keep that coming. All right, today's exciting because we have a 2018 Jeep JL on the dyno again, because of course we're promoting the product because it is now available to purchase, and now we're excited to show it to you. So this one was given to us by a good client who is local to us, who had the supercharger installed, previously, and just said, hey, do you guys want to put it on video? And we said, yes, we want to put it on video, so here it is. Now, as we've gone over in some of our other videos, we wanted to explain that the Jeep JL is slightly different than the Jeep JK, which we've got like 8,000 kits out there, so we know a lot about them. So we know that the two engines are actually different. All right, so in 2018, when they came out with the new model Wrangler, which is designated the JL, I guess the guys over at Jeep decided to re-up the engine and change it up a bit and make it a little bit more powerful or whatever. So what they did was they raised the compression, they changed the intake manifold, they changed the throttle body, they added an EGR system, but most importantly, they changed the transmission. They went to the 8-speed ZF automatic. Now we know a lot about the 8-speed automatic because we use it in our car program, right? So all of our Mopar V6 cars with the older engine but the newer transmission, well, we were just there, so we knew a lot about it. So we took about 22 months to develop this product because we want it to be, as good and as linear as our other products that are on the market now. And you can see from some of the great reviews that we have both online on our website and basically anywhere you look, that we have a really solid little product for both the Jeep and the cars and the SUVs. And now we're working on Ram as well. That's coming. So as far as this product goes, the actual components are about the same, right? You got a beautiful supercharger, 1100 CFM, beautiful air filter poking out over there, which will filter out all the junk, larger injectors, a proprietary map sensor, that beautiful front mount intercooler, which cools all the boost before it goes to the throttle body. This basically mimics the JK XL program. If you remember that one, that's basically what this is. It's a pumped up version of our older kit for the JK, which also made great power, but these are just a teeny bit more powerful because they've got bigger intakes and bigger throttle bodies and a little bit more compression. And that means they make a little bit more power. Speaking of power, again, this one we weren't able to dyno test before because it was brought to us supercharged just for video, so we really can't give you that number prior on this vehicle, but we know they make about 220 horsepower. That's the power that they make at the rear tire. So we always need to cover this because there's always going to be somebody in the comments who goes, no, my car has 300 horsepower, and it doesn't. So 285 advertised horsepower on this vehicle is horsepower measured only at the engine, right? So if you have an engine and you test it, it's 285 horsepower. That's it. 285 is what the motor has. Then when you put a car around it and you have like an alternator and air conditioning and all the other things that make it a car, like a car around it, and it gets to the rear wheels, well, then it makes 220 horsepower, and that's called drivetrain loss. And so, you could do the math on that. That's what you lose, about 50, 60 horsepower at the rear wheel. What we do is we bring that 220 to 350, 360, 370, and in our car program, which has a lighter drivetrain, some of those guys are making 450 and even a little bit higher. So that being said, we're really, really flexing the engine. If you want to measure what something like this would make at the crank, well, then we're in the high 500s, 400s rather, and so that's what we're actually making at the crank. But nobody really knows that number because nobody's taken an engine out, put it on an engine dyno, and tested it on its own. But we know, basically, given math. So I think we covered just about everything, and that was a lot of talking. So we can probably make some noise with this one, reconvene it to dyno, and talk about what we found. All right, hang on, guys. That sounded good. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, 372.0 horsepower at the rear wheels, which means that's the horsepower actually made at the rear wheels. All right, guys. So if you were to do the math, for example, and you know, we got other guys, other manufacturers sort of throwing some numbers around. This is 450 horsepower at the crank. And so if you do the math, really, the way you would do that is we know these vehicles make 220, you know, at the rear wheels when you test them. And then that's about, right, a 20% drivetrain loss from the 285. So you do that math, you know, quickly with your phone there or whatever it is that you have a calculator around, right? And so then when we add the 150 horsepower at the rear wheels again, right? And you do a little bit of math there and add the 20% drivetrain loss to this number, we're 450 plus horsepower. So again, we're trying to be as clear as possible when we say we advertise rear wheel numbers, right? That's something that you can actually use. So if you're using your Gladiator, which has the same engine and transmission to tow, for example, you have 450 horsepower. That's 392 power, right? No problem. That's exactly what you have, right? And considering this vehicle is making 310 pounds of torque right in the meat of the horsepower and it's maintaining it so beautifully and clean, right? That means you're going to have plenty of power to pull. You don't have to use the revs, right? Those of you that are already starting to tow with these vehicles, and again, I'll say Gladiator, they're probably doing a little bit more towing than your JLs, but your JLs are doing light towing. Let's say 1,500, 2,000 pounds, 2,500, right? That's what you're really towing. And then you've got these 37, 38s, then all your gear, and then your family, you're loaded down pretty good, right? You're probably pretty heavy. So you're going to need some power. And so what's great about the RIPP Supercharger is the design of the compressor itself is so efficient that at those mid RPMs, you really don't need a ton of boost, right? What you do need is 1, 2, 3, 4 pounds of boost, and that gets you down the road really nice. You don't have to worry about consuming an enormous amount of fuel, pulling back timing because of detonation, all sorts of crazy things that are going on. We've proven this recipe over and over, and we know that the size of the compressor that we have, the size of the intercooler, the size of the injector is all perfect. So really, when you're getting something from us, you're getting something that's fully engineered. Right? So if you guys have any questions, guys, we love them when you ask them. You know, we can ask the question. A lot of people have been asking the difference between the JK and a JL, and we go over that in the video, but basically the JL has a little bit more powerful engine because it has a little bit more compression, and therefore there's a little bit more power. The other question is they constantly see our car programming making a lot more horsepower, right? So they're at 450 horsepower, 430 horsepower, whatever it is these guys are cracking off, they're cracking them off. But the reason they're doing that is because their drivetrain is a lot lighter, right? They don't have a transfer case and they don't have these big wheels and a solid axle that could pull 7,000 pounds. So, you know, that drivetrain is a lot lighter and therefore they're able to make a little bit more power. Same engine, right? Same transmission, just a different car. And so it's going to be a little bit more powerful. So you can't pretend to have the same horsepower when you have this much more load. The other thing is, do I need to add anything to make this? No, this is really just one mod. You know, and this guy's got like an axle back exhaust system, but that's not going to give you like, you know, extra horsepower. I mean, those things are good for a few horsepower, and we've proven our exhaust systems to make a little bit more power, but that's because we engineer them that way. But this is just an axle back with 2 tips in the back, and it's, you know, nothing. So it's not adding. Do you need the coil pack? Should I add those things? Those things all help, right? They're things that will, filter out the acidity coming through the crankcase and water that would normally go into your intake and muck it up. So those things really do help in that respect. The coils bring more energy to the spark plug. So in order to do a supercharger install, you have to, you know, gap the plugs differently. So you're going to be in there anyway. So it's kind of just like no-brainer. If you have the extra scratch to put into the, you know, into the coils, you just put them in, and then, you know, you have an extra, you know, 10% more power at the spark plug. That's only going to help you going down the road anyway, right? And just be more efficient, and you never have to worry about the factory, you know, OEM coil will go bad. Other than that, there's questions about, like, for example, you know, can I go through water, things like that. That's a really nice thing about the RIPP Supercharger. We're not really moving around any of the factory components, right? So let's talk about that. We're actually Jeepers. You know that I have a Jeep. It's fantastic. It's on 43s. I've had it since 2012. It's on the same engine, same transmission. It's been around the country and nearly, you know, so at this point, when I use my JK, I'm not really worried about it. JLs are the same way. Some of our competitors, the big bulk of them, are actually moving the alternator to where you'd have the power steering. Anybody who's an avid Jeeper knows that when you start going to like a 40-inch tire, you're going to need a hydraulic system from, you know, PSC or Steer Smarts or one of those companies, right? And they're going to put a power steering pump in the car. Well, guess what? You can't do that on any of the components, right? Other superchargers, because we are actually Jeepers at heart and we care about the consumer. Those are just some little things and stuff like that that are like a window into what's out there, and we just want to maintain the conversation about our product. We really are not here to judge their products. We just know how you guys use our stuff for so long, over a decade, so we know that this is the way you're going to want to use this one as well. Well, again, questions, comments, subscribe, like, Facebook, Instagram, all the little things, website, call us. All right, thanks for stopping by.